The heart monitor flatlines as I stare at the empty visitor chairs where my family should be sitting, but instead, they're all at the Royal Festival Hall watching my younger sister Chen Rose perform in the International Young Pianist Competition that I helped fund with my life savings and my sanity and my dreams that I sacrificed one by one, until there was nothing left of Chen Lily except this dying shell in a hospital bed at 28 years old. The irony cuts deeper than the chest pain that brought me here, because today, September 15th, is not just the day Rose finally wins her precious competition, but also the day I die alone with nothing but the memory of my parents' voices echoing in my head saying, "Lily, you're so smart. You don't need our help, but Rose is fragile and artistic. She needs our support." I can hear the distant sound of applause from the television in the next room where they're broadcasting Rose's performance live, and I think about how I used to be brilliant at mathematics, how I used to solve equations that could revolutionize quantum computing, how I used to have dreams bigger than this sterile hospital room that smells like disinfectant and broken promises. My phone buzzes with a text from Rose that says, "I won first place. Wish you could be here." And I want to laugh at the cruelty of it all because I literally can't be there because I'm dying. And she doesn't even know I'm dying because she's never once asked about my health or my happiness or anything that didn't revolve around her career that I've been funding since we were children. The pattern started so early I used to think it was normal, the way my parents would beam with pride when Rose played a simple melody on the secondhand piano they bought her while dismissing my perfect report cards as expected from someone with your natural intelligence. As if intelligence meant I didn't deserve recognition or encouragement or basic parental pride. When I won the regional mathematics competition at age 15, they didn't even attend the ceremony because it conflicted with Rose's piano recital where she played adequately but not brilliantly, yet they acted like she was the next Mozart while I stood on that stage, accepting my award with an empty seat where my family should have been cheering. The guidance counselor, Mrs. Anderson, had called me into her office during my senior year of high school, her eyes bright with excitement as she slid the letter across her desk. The Cambridge University letterhead crisp and official as she explained that I'd been awarded a full scholarship to study mathematics, an opportunity that would change my life, that would let me work with the greatest minds in the world, that would set me free from the suffocating weight of always being second choice in my own family. But when I brought the letter home, my parents' faces fell as they explained that Rose was at a crucial developmental stage in her musical career, that she needed emotional support and financial backing for private lessons and international competitions, that I was strong enough to sacrifice for the family, while Rose was too delicate to handle disappointment. "Cambridge will always be there," my mother said, her voice gentle but firm as she folded the letter and placed it in the drawer with all my other achievements that they'd hidden away. "But Rose's window of opportunity is narrow. You understand, don't you, Lily? You've always been the responsible one, the one who puts family first. And because I was 18 and desperate for their approval, I nodded and agreed to defer the scholarship indefinitely while I worked multiple jobs to pay for Rose's conservatory education and private coaching and international travel expenses that drained every penny I earned. The years blurred together in a cycle of working and sacrificing and watching Rose's mediocre talent get polished into something presentable while my own brilliance atrophied from disuse. And when David Kim started paying attention to me during my secret part-time mathematics courses at the local college, I thought finally someone saw my worth, someone appreciated my mind, someone wanted to build a life with me based on mutual respect and intellectual connection. But David was a Phoenix man in the truest sense. Engineering student from a poor family who recognized that my mathematical abilities could complete his thesis projects and advance his career, while my family's modest wealth could provide him with social connections he couldn't access on his own. I was so starved for affection and recognition that I didn't see the signs, didn't understand why David always needed my help with his coursework but never wanted to discuss my own research interests, didn't question why he encouraged me to keep my academic pursuits secret from my family, because they wouldn't understand the pressure you're under to help me succeed. When I finally completed my PhD in mathematics through night classes and weekend sessions, writing my dissertation on quantum computing applications while working 60 hours a week to fund Rose's increasingly expensive career, David published my research under his name and received international recognition for breakthrough work that I'd spent 3 years developing in secret. The betrayal hit me like a physical blow, Not just David's theft of my intellectual property, but my family's reaction when I tried to expose the truth. The way they looked at me with disappointment and concern as they said I was becoming jealous and bitter, that success was making me paranoid, that I needed to focus on supporting the people who loved me instead of chasing personal glory that would never bring me happiness. Rose performed at my confrontation with David like she was the wronged party, tears streaming down her face as she accused me of trying to destroy her relationship with David because I couldn't stand seeing other people succeed. "You've always been jealous of me," Rose sobbed, her voice carrying that manipulative tremor that had gotten her everything she wanted since childhood. "You can't stand that I have talent and people love me, so you're making up stories about David to hurt us both. Why can't you just be happy for me, Lily? Why do you always have to make everything about yourself?" And my parents nodded along, their faces filled with the kind of loving concern they'd never shown for my achievements. Their voices gentle as they suggested, "I seek therapy for my unhealthy competitiveness and inability to celebrate family success." The final breaking point came when I discovered that David had been embezzling from my research grants, using university funds intended for my quantum computing project to finance Rose's European competition tour. And when I brought evidence to my parents, they sat me down like I was having a mental breakdown and explained that family means sacrificing for each other, that my mathematical work was just numbers, while Rose's music brought joy to people's lives, that I should be grateful to have a sister talented enough to make our family name famous in artistic circles. I spent the last months of my life working 80-hour weeks to complete my research, while my health deteriorated from stress and exhaustion, my heart condition developing as I pushed myself beyond human limits to prove that my work mattered, that my contributions to science were worth something even if my family couldn't see their value. The night of my PhD defense, which I'd kept secret because I knew they wouldn't attend anyway, I collapsed from chest pain in the university parking lot and was rushed to the hospital where I lay for 3 days waiting for visitors who never came because they were all in Europe supporting Rose's latest competition. The phone call that finally came wasn't from my parents checking on my health, but from Rose excitedly telling me about her first-place victory, her voice bubbling with joy as she described the standing ovation and the prize money and the recording contract she'd been offered. And when I tried to tell her I was in the hospital, she brushed past my words like they were insignificant details, interrupting her moment of triumph. "I'm so happy, Lily. This is everything I've ever dreamed of. I know you're probably at home working on your computer stuff, but I wanted to share this with you because none of this would have been possible without your support." The irony hits me as my vision darkens and the machines around me start beeping frantically. I solved equations that could revolutionize quantum computing and change the world forever. But I couldn't solve the equation of my own family's love, couldn't find the formula that would make them see me as more than a funding source for Rose's dreams, couldn't calculate my way into the heart of people who saw my intelligence as a tool for their use rather than a gift worthy of celebration. My last coherent thought as the darkness closes in is that I'm dying on the same day Rose achieves her greatest triumph. And tomorrow the newspapers will probably run a small obituary for Dr. Chen Lily, quantum computing researcher, on the same page as a glowing review of pianist Chen Rose's breakthrough performance, and no one will notice the connection between the sister who sacrificed everything and the sister who received everything, between the genius who died alone and the talent who lived surrounded by applause. Then I opened my eyes and realized I was 18 again, sitting in my high school guidance counselor's office, holding the Cambridge scholarship letter in my trembling hands while Mrs. Anderson smiled at me with expectant hope, and I knew exactly what day this was, exactly what choice I was about to make, exactly how I was going to rewrite the story of my life. I know exactly what day this is, September 15th, 10 years before my death, the day I originally gave up Cambridge to stay home for Rose, the day I made the decision that would lead to a decade of sacrifice and suffering and ultimately death in a hospital bed surrounded by empty chairs. Mrs. Anderson is looking at me with the same expression of excitement and anticipation that I remember from my previous life, her voice warm as she explains that the scholarship committee was impressed by my mathematical research and my essay on quantum computing applications, that this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to study with the world's leading researchers in my field. "So what do you think, Lily?" she asks, leaning forward with genuine enthusiasm for my future. "Are you ready to accept this incredible opportunity?" And I look down at the letter that represents everything I lost in my previous life, everything I sacrificed for a family that never valued my dreams, everything I gave up to support people who saw my intelligence as a resource to be exploited rather than a gift to be celebrated. In my previous life, I hesitated. I said I needed to think about it. I went home and let my parents convince me that family obligation trumped personal ambition, that Rose's musical development was more important than my academic potential, that sacrifice was noble and selflessness was virtuous, and putting others first would somehow lead to my own happiness. But now I know the truth. I know that my sacrifice bought Rose a mediocre career and my parents the satisfaction of having one daughter subsidize another's dreams, while I died alone and unrecognized, with my greatest achievements stolen by people who never loved me enough to protect my interests. Yes, I say, my voice steady and clear as I meet Mrs. Anderson's eyes. I accept the scholarship. I'll start at Cambridge next fall. The words feel like breaking free from invisible chains, like breathing air after being underwater for 10 years. Like choosing myself for the first time in my life and discovering that it doesn't make me selfish or cruel, it makes me alive. Mrs. Anderson beams as she shakes my hand, her voice filled with pride as she explains the next steps in the application process, the course selections I'll need to make, the housing arrangements and visa requirements, and all the practical details of building a new life away from the people who never understood my worth. I listen and nod and sign papers while my heart pounds with the exhilaration of choosing differently, of rewriting my story, of refusing to be the martyred daughter who sacrifices everything for others' comfort. That evening at dinner, I sit across from my family and announce my decision with the calm confidence of someone who has already lived through their attempts at manipulation and guilt. I've accepted the scholarship to Cambridge. I say, cutting into my mother's explanation of Rose's upcoming auditions and her need for additional private coaching. I'll be starting my mathematics degree next fall. The silence that follows is exactly what I expected, the kind of stunned quiet that comes when someone breaks an unspoken family rule, when the designated giver stops giving and the designated receivers realize their source of support has just declared independence. My mother recovers first, her voice taking on that gentle but firm tone that used to make me doubt myself, that used to make me believe that my dreams were selfish and my family's needs were more important. "But Lily, sweetheart, this seems so sudden," she says, reaching across the table to touch my hand with false concern. "We haven't discussed this as a family, and you know Rose is at such a crucial stage in her musical development. She needs emotional support and financial backing for her conservatory applications, and Cambridge is so far away. What if something happens to us while you're gone?" In my previous life, this guilt worked like a charm, made me feel selfish and ungrateful, made me believe that choosing my own future meant abandoning people who loved me. But now I know the truth. They don't want me to stay because they love me. They want me to stay because they need my intelligence and my work ethic and my willingness to sacrifice for their comfort, because my absence would mean Rose actually has to compete on her own merit instead of riding on my financial support. "Rose has talent," I reply, my voice calm as I continue eating my dinner. "She doesn't need me holding her back by making her dependent on my support. And you're both healthy adults who can manage without your daughter financing your lives." The words are harsh but true, and I watch their faces change as they realize I'm not the same compliant girl who used to apologize for having opinions that differed from theirs. Rose starts crying, those manipulative tears that used to make me feel guilty for having boundaries, that used to make me believe I was the cruel sister who cared more about achievements than family harmony. "How can you say that, Lily?" she sobs, her voice trembling with practiced hurt. "We're a family. We're supposed to support each other." "I supported you through all your math competitions and science fairs. I cheered for you even when I didn't understand what you were doing. Why can't you do the same for me?" The lies come so easily to her, the rewriting of history that makes her the supportive sister and me, the selfish one, that erases all the time she rolled her eyes at my academic achievements and complained about having a boring sister who cared more about numbers than normal teenage things. In my previous life, I believed her version of events because I was desperate to maintain family peace, desperate to be seen as loving and generous and worthy of their approval. I remember how this conversation originally ended, I think to myself as I watch Rose's performance with detached clarity. I cried and apologized and promised to consider my family's needs, and then I spent the next 10 years funding Rose's mediocre career while my own genius withered from neglect. Not this time. "You're right that families should support each other," I say, standing up from the table and meeting each of their eyes in turn. I've learned that support means believing in someone's dreams and encouraging their success and celebrating their achievements. I'm going to find family that knows how to do those things, and I walk away from the dinner table and their shocked faces and their attempts to call me back. Walk away from the people who love me conditionally, and only when my love benefits them. Walk away from the life that killed me slowly and painfully over the course of 10 years. That night, I lie in my bed and stare at the ceiling while my family holds emergency meetings in the living room below, their voices carrying through the thin walls as they discuss strategies for changing my mind, as they plan new approaches to guilt and manipulation, as they fail to understand that the daughter they could control is gone forever. I think about Cambridge and quantum computing and the brilliant future waiting for me across the ocean, and for the first time in either of my lives, I fall asleep excited about tomorrow instead of dreading the next demand for sacrifice. Cambridge University transforms me in ways my family never could have imagined, surrounded by professors who see my mathematical brilliance as something to cultivate rather than exploit, by classmates who respect intelligence and curiosity, and the kind of deep thinking that my family always dismissed as antisocial behavior. I graduate summa cum laude with a first-class honors degree in pure mathematics, my dissertation on quantum encryption algorithms earning recognition from the International Mathematical Union, and a direct invitation to continue my research as a PhD candidate under Professor Margaret Williams, whose work on quantum computing has revolutionized the field. At 21, I win the Young Mathematician of the Year award from the Royal Mathematical Society. Standing on the stage at the ceremony in London while cameras flash and distinguished researchers applaud my contributions to quantum cryptography theory. The trophy in my hands feels solid and real, evidence of my worth that no one can steal or dismiss or attribute to someone else's talent. And when my phone buzzes with a call from my family, I let it go to voicemail without a second thought, because this moment belongs to me and the people who actually supported my journey. The voicemail they leave is confused and hurt. My mother's voice, asking why I didn't tell them about the award, my father wondering why they weren't invited to the ceremony, Rose complaining that she found out about my achievement from a news article online and feels left out of my success. "We're so proud of you, sweetheart," my mother says, her tone suggesting that she believes pride can erase years of neglect and dismissal. "We always knew you were special, and we'd love to celebrate with you when you come home for the holidays." I delete the message without responding because I know the truth. They're not proud of my mathematical brilliance. They're proud of the prestige my award brings to the family name, proud of being able to tell their friends that their daughter is internationally recognized, proud of the reflected glory they can claim without having contributed anything to my success. When they ask why I didn't invite them to the ceremony, I simply say, "I didn't think you'd be interested in just numbers," and I hang up before they can respond because I've learned that some conversations aren't worth having with people who will never understand the damage they've done. My friendship with Wei Chen deepens during our PhD years, his brilliant work in computer science complementing my theoretical research in ways that spark innovation and genuine intellectual connection. Wei understands what it means to be driven by curiosity and passion for discovery, understands the satisfaction of solving problems that others consider impossible, understands the loneliness of being intellectually gifted in a world that often prefers mediocrity. When I tell him about my family's reaction to my award, he listens without judgment and then says quietly, "Some people only value what they can use, Lily. You deserve to be valued for who you are, not what you can provide." His words echo in my mind as I prepare for the next level of recognition, the International Mathematics Medal Ceremony in Geneva, where I'll be honored for developing new algorithms that could revolutionize online security through quantum encryption. The ceremony will be broadcast internationally on academic channels, and when my family assumes they'll be invited as my guests, I feel that familiar tug of obligation that used to control my decisions, that voice in my head saying I should forgive and include them because family is supposed to matter more than past hurts. But I remember lying in that hospital bed surrounded by empty chairs, remember dying alone while they celebrated Rose's mediocre achievement, remember the years of sacrificing my dreams for their comfort, and I realized that forgiveness doesn't require forgetting, that love doesn't require accepting abuse, that family means nothing if it's not built on mutual respect and genuine care. "I'm sorry, but I've already invited my research team," I tell my parents when they call to discuss travel arrangements for Geneva. Perhaps you can watch on the academic channel if you're interested. Their silence on the other end of the line speaks volumes. Their assumption that they deserve access to my success, despite never supporting my journey. Their entitlement to moments they didn't earn through years of encouragement and sacrifice and genuine love. The ceremony in Geneva is everything I dreamed it would be, room filled with the world's leading mathematicians and scientists, colleagues who understand the significance of my work and the years of dedication required to achieve this level of recognition. When I walk onto the stage to accept the medal, I see Wei in the audience with tears in his eyes, see Professor Williams beaming with pride for her students' achievement, see the kind of genuine joy and celebration that I never experienced from my own family. My acceptance speech flows from my heart as I thank the mentors who believed in me when believing was difficult, the colleagues who collaborated and challenged and supported my research, the institutions that provided resources and opportunities for discovery. Mathematics has taught me that every equation has a solution. I say, looking out at the audience of brilliant minds who have chosen to spend their evening celebrating my achievement, sometimes the solution requires us to change our variables, to approach problems from new angles, to value persistence over convenience. I'm grateful to be surrounded by people who understand that some solutions are worth the effort they require. The applause that follows feels like validation of every difficult choice I've made since my rebirth, every moment I chose myself over their comfort, every time I refused to sacrifice my dreams for their approval. When the ceremony ends and colleagues congratulate me with genuine enthusiasm, when Wei hugs me and whispers that he's proud to know me, when Professor Williams introduces me to potential collaborators as one of the most brilliant mathematical minds of her generation, I understand that this is what family should feel like: people who celebrate your successes without expecting credit, who support your dreams without demanding sacrifice, who love you for who you are rather than what you can provide. That night, as I sit in my Geneva hotel room with the medal gleaming on the nightstand, my phone rings with calls from family members who watch the ceremony on television and suddenly want to reconnect, who claim they've always been proud of my achievements and supported my career, who act as if years of neglect and dismissal can be erased by enthusiasm for my current success. I let the calls go to voicemail because I've learned to distinguish between people who love me and people who love what I can do for them, and my family has definitively placed themselves in the second category. The media attention that follows my award leads to interviews and speaking engagements where journalists want to know about my background and inspiration, and when they ask about family support, I give diplomatic answers about learning to value people who value me, about surrounding myself with colleagues who understand the importance of intellectual curiosity and scientific discovery. The subtext is clear to anyone who pays attention. My success happened despite my family rather than because of them, but I'm gracious enough not to air dirty laundry in public forums. My company launches the following year when Wei and I decide to commercialize our quantum computing research, combining his expertise in practical applications with my theoretical breakthroughs to create algorithms that multinational corporations desperately need for data security. The startup attracts $50 million in investment within 6 months. My face appears on the covers of technology magazines as the young mathematician revolutionizing cybersecurity, and suddenly everyone wants to claim connection to my success. That's when my parents show up at the company offices, demanding to speak with me about my abandonment of family values and my selfish pursuit of fame at the expense of relationships. The security cameras catch their raised voices and dramatic gestures as they berate my assistant for not immediately granting them access, as they claim that my success belongs to the family that raised me, as they threaten to expose my true character to the media unless I agree to support Rose's faltering musical career. The footage goes viral within hours, shared by technology blogs and social media accounts with captions like, "Toxic family tries to claim credit for daughter's success," and "When parents become parasites." The public reaction is overwhelmingly supportive of my position, with thousands of comments from people sharing similar stories of family members who only showed interest after achievements brought prestige or money, who expected access to success they never supported during the struggling years. My response is a carefully crafted statement about focusing on work and surrounding myself with supportive people, about choosing to invest energy in relationships that are reciprocal rather than one-sided, about the importance of building chosen family when biological family fails to provide unconditional love. The statement trends on social media for days, sparking conversations about toxic family dynamics and the difference between supporting someone's dreams and exploiting their achievements. Rose's reaction is predictably dramatic, a series of social media posts about being abandoned by her successful sister, about the loneliness of watching family members choose fame over love, about the pain of seeing someone you supported throughout childhood refuse to help when you need them most. But investigative journalists quickly discover the truth about our family dynamic, interviewing teachers and neighbors who remember the years when Rose received all the attention and resources while my achievements were consistently minimized or ignored. The narrative shift is swift and brutal. Rose becomes a cautionary tale about entitlement and manipulation rather than a sympathetic victim of family estrangement. Her mediocre musical career exposed as the product of years of financial support that I provided through part-time jobs and academic sacrifices. When she has a very public mental breakdown during a piano recital, blaming my success for her failures and claiming that I stole the intelligence that should have been shared between sisters, the classical music community quietly distances itself from someone who clearly lacks the professionalism required for a serious career. The pinnacle of my revenge comes at age 26 when I receive the call that changes everything. The Nobel Committee has selected me to receive the prize in physics for my groundbreaking work in quantum computing applications that have revolutionized everything from medical research to financial security. The caller's voice is formal and respectful as he explains that I'm the youngest woman ever to receive the award in my field, that my work represents a paradigm shift in how humanity approaches computational problems, that the ceremony in Stockholm will be watched by millions of people around the world. When the news breaks, my phone explodes with calls and messages from family members who suddenly want to rebuild our relationship, who claim they've always been proud of my achievements and sorry for any misunderstandings, who assume that Nobel Prize winners automatically forgive past slights and welcome formerly estranged relatives back into their lives. My mother's voicemail is particularly manipulative, her voice breaking with emotion as she explains how much they miss me and how proud they are of my success, how they've always believed in my potential even when they didn't know how to show it properly. "We know we made mistakes, sweetheart," she says, her tone suggesting that mistakes are minor errors rather than years of systematic neglect and emotional manipulation. "But family is family, and we want to be there for your big moment. Please don't shut us out of this incredible achievement. We're your parents, we deserve to share in your success." The entitlement in her words is breathtaking. The assumption that biological connection grants automatic access to moments they didn't earn through love or support or genuine investment in my well-being. But I've learned to recognize manipulation disguised as love, learned to distinguish between people who want to celebrate my success and people who want to claim credit for achievements they actively hindered. When I explain that my guest list for the Nobel ceremony is complete, that I'll be attending with Wei Chen, who proposed during the media frenzy and has been my partner in both research and life, that I prefer to share my greatest achievement with people who supported me during the difficult years, rather than those who only appeared after the rewards became visible, their response reveals their true nature. My father gives interviews to tabloid newspapers about being shut out by his successful daughter, painting himself as the victim of my cruel ambition and abandonment of family values. Rose appears on talk shows to discuss the tragedy of sibling rivalry and the devastating effects of academic pressure on family relationships. They hire a publicist to craft their narrative as the loving family destroyed by their daughter's selfish pursuit of fame, as parents who sacrificed everything to support my education, only to be rejected when I achieved success. But the media investigation that follows exposes the truth about our family dynamic, revealing years of documented evidence that contradicts their victim narrative. Scholarships I was encouraged to refuse, academic achievements they failed to attend, research opportunities they discouraged in favor of supporting Rose's musical ambitions that never materialized into sustainable success. The public sees through their manipulation, recognizing the pattern of parents who want to claim credit for success they never supported, who expect access to achievements they actively hindered. The Nobel Prize ceremony in Stockholm is everything I dreamed it would be, and more a celebration of intellectual achievement attended by the world's most brilliant minds, a recognition of work that will advance human knowledge and capability for generations to come. When I walk onto the stage in my elegant gown with Wei at my side, When the presenter describes my contributions to quantum computing in language that conveys both respect and admiration, when the audience of distinguished scientists and dignitaries rises in appreciation for my achievements, I feel the kind of validation that can only come from people who understand the significance of what I've accomplished. My acceptance speech is watched by 200 million people worldwide, including my family who sit in their living room watching their daughter achieve the highest honor in science without them present to share the moment they never earned through years of love and support. I thank my mentors and colleagues and the institutions that believed in my potential. I acknowledge Wei as my partner in both research and life. I announce that we're expecting our first child and that I'm establishing a scholarship fund for students from unsupportive families who need financial assistance to pursue their academic dreams. The final twist of irony is perfect. Not only am I achieving success beyond anything my family imagined possible, but I'm also ensuring that their legacy continues without their involvement, that my child will grow up knowing unconditional love and support for their dreams regardless of whether those dreams align with parental expectations. The scholarship fund becomes my way of helping other brilliant young people escape the cycle of family manipulation and emotional exploitation that I endured in my previous life. When the ceremony ends and the cameras capture Wei kissing me as we hold the Nobel Prize together, when colleagues and dignitaries congratulate us on both my professional achievement and our personal happiness, when the media reports focus on my grace and intelligence and the obvious love between Wei and me, I know that my revenge is complete, not because I've destroyed my family, but because I've built something better without them, because I've proven that their rejection was their loss rather than my failure. 3 years after the Nobel Prize ceremony, I sit in the garden of our London home watching my 2-year-old son Daniel play with building blocks while Wei works on his laptop nearby. The scene's so peaceful and normal that sometimes I forget about the drama that led us here, the family that chose to remain estranged rather than acknowledge their mistakes, the revenge that unfolded so perfectly that it feels like destiny rather than planning. Our quantum computing company has become a global leader in cybersecurity technology. My research continues to advance the field in ways that will benefit humanity for generations. And most importantly, I wake up every morning surrounded by people who love me unconditionally rather than conditionally. Daniel looks exactly like Wei, but has my mathematical mind, already showing signs of the kind of analytical thinking that my family used to dismiss as antisocial behavior, and I'm determined to nurture his intellectual curiosity while also teaching him that love should never come with conditions or require sacrifice of personal dreams. When he stacks his blocks in complex patterns that most children his age couldn't envision, Wei and I exchange glances of pride and excitement rather than concern about his differences, understanding that gifts should be celebrated rather than hidden or exploited. "He's going to be brilliant," Wei says, closing his laptop and moving to sit beside me on the garden bench. "I hope he inherits your courage along with your intelligence. It takes strength to choose yourself when everyone else wants you to choose them." His words remind me of the difficult years after my rebirth when I had to resist every instinct toward people, pleasing, and guilt. When I had to learn that self-respect isn't selfish and that boundaries aren't cruel even when they disappoint people who are used to having unlimited access to your resources. The scholarship fund I established has grown beyond my wildest expectations, now supporting hundreds of students whose families don't understand or value their academic potential, whose gifts are seen as resources to be exploited rather than talents to be nurtured. The letters I receive from recipients remind me of my own younger, self-brilliant young people who feel guilty for wanting more than their families expect, who struggle with the choice between personal fulfillment and family approval, who need permission to pursue excellence even when it threatens the comfortable dynamics of those around them. Education should be a ladder, not a chain. I often tell the scholarship recipients during our annual gathering, your intelligence belongs to you, not to people who want to use it for their convenience. Learning to say no to the wrong opportunities is how you say yes to the right ones. These conversations heal something in me that I didn't even realize was still wounded. The satisfaction of helping others avoid the trap that consumed my previous life, the joy of watching young minds flourish when given proper support and encouragement. My parents attempted reconciliation exactly once after Daniel's birth, showing up at our home with gifts and tears and explanations about how becoming grandparents had helped them understand the importance of family forgiveness. My mother held Daniel with the kind of gentle care she'd always shown Rose's achievements, her voice soft as she explained that they'd learned from their mistakes and wanted to be part of our lives moving forward, that grandchildren deserve relationships with extended family, regardless of past conflicts between adults. We were young parents who didn't always know how to handle having two such different daughters, she said, rocking Daniel while he gurgled happily in her arms. We made mistakes, but we've grown, and we want to do better. Please don't punish Daniel for our failures as parents. He deserves to know his grandparents. And we deserve the chance to love him properly. The manipulation was subtler than in the past, but still present, using my child's welfare to justify access they wanted for their own emotional needs, framing their desire for relationship as his need for family connection. But I'd learned to recognize emotional manipulation even when it came wrapped in reasonable arguments and genuine tears, learned that people don't fundamentally change just because circumstances make their previous behavior inconvenient, learned that protecting my child meant protecting him from people who love conditionally and withdraw support when their conditions aren't met. Daniel has grandparents, I told them gently but firmly. Way's parents visit every month and love him unconditionally. He doesn't need more grandparent, she needs consistent, reliable love from people who won't disappear when he doesn't meet their expectations. Their faces show genuine hurt at my refusal, genuine confusion about why success and motherhood hadn't made me more forgiving, genuine belief that time should heal wounds they'd never acknowledged creating. But I'd learned that healing requires more than time eat, requires acknowledgement of harm, genuine change in behavior, and demonstrated commitment to doing better, none of which they'd shown during our brief conversation about wanting access to my child and my happiness. Rose married David Kim 2 years ago in a small ceremony that made the society pages because of his family's modest wealth and her connection to my fame. Their relationship built on mutual convenience rather than genuine love or respect. She teaches piano lessons to children whose parents hope some of my mathematical brilliance might be genetic and transferable, her career never recovering from the public exposure of her entitled behavior and lack of genuine talent. Sometimes I feel a flicker of sadness for the sister I might have loved if she'd been capable of genuine affection rather than competitive manipulation, but mostly I feel relief that I'm no longer responsible for her happiness or success. David's career never recovered from the exposure of his academic plagiarism, his theft of my early research destroying his reputation in engineering circles and leaving him struggling to find employment worthy of his inflated ego. The poetic justice of their Marriagetwo people who used others now stuck with each other would be satisfying if I still cared enough about their fate to invest emotional energy in their consequences. Instead, I focus on the family I've chosen and built, the life I've created through careful decisions about who deserves access to my love and resources. The final chapter of my story isn't about destruction or dramatic confrontation, but about the quiet satisfaction of building something beautiful without the people who tried to tear me down, about discovering that the best revenge isn't making others suffer but making yourself genuinely happy. When I watch Daniel take his first steps toward Way with his arms outstretched and his face bright with joy, when I see the unconditional love and support that flows between the three of us like a warm current, when I realize that this child will grow up knowing he's valued for who he is rather than what he can provide, I understand that my rebirth gave me more than just the chance to avoid past mistakes. It gave me the opportunity to build the kind of family I'd always needed but never experienced. Some families are born, others are chosen, and I chose mine wisely the second time around. Way and Daniel and the colleagues who celebrate my achievements, and the students who benefit from my scholarship fund, and the mentors who believed in my potentialities are the people who deserve my love and loyalty and investment of emotional energy. The others, the ones who only appeared after the rewards became visible, who wanted access to success they never supported during the struggling years, who confused biological connection with earned relationship, they remain in my past where they belong, watching my happiness from a distance they created through their own choices. Tonight, as I tuck Daniel into his bed and read him stories about brave children who follow their dreams despite obstacles, as Wei and I discuss our research projects and plan for tomorrow's possibilities, as I look around at the home we've built, filled with love and respect and genuine partnership, I feel the kind of peace that only comes from living authentically, from choosing people who choose you back, from understanding that you don't owe anyone access to the life you've built through your own courage and decisions. My story isn't about forgiveness or reconciliation or the healing power of family bonds. It's about learning to value yourself enough to walk away from people who don't, about building the life you deserve with people who understand your worth, about discovering that the best revenge is living so well that you forget why you needed revenge in the first place. When I close my eyes each night, I don't dream about the family that rejected me or the life that killed me slowly through sacrifice and neglect. I dream about tomorrow's possibilities and the brilliant future I'm building with people who love me not for what I can provide, but for who I am. And when Daniel grows up and asks about his grandparents on my side, I'll tell him the truth that some people love conditionally and others love completely, that family means people who celebrate your dreams rather than exploit your gifts, that he's surrounded by the kind of love that builds rather than depletes, that protects rather than demands, that celebrates rather than competes. That will be my final victory, raising a child who never doubts his worth, who never sacrifices his dreams for others' comfort, who chooses love that empowers rather than diminishes, who understands from birth what it took me 2 lifetimes to learn, that you are worthy of love simply because you exist, and anyone who suggests otherwise doesn't deserve access to the gift of your presence in their life.